Okay. Welcome to Chemistry Homework Tips. This is where I'm going to talk about what you should do in chemistry in order to get a good grade. This year, expectations are higher than last year, as every year I put higher expectations on the students. So, let's begin with this. You find problems either in your textbook or from your teacher. That would be me. I give problems, your textbook gives problems. Notice there are two places to find problems if you need additional help. Now, the first thing and most important thing to do is to practice. Unlike last year, in which I had a participation part to my grade, this year, participation equals quizzes and your notebook. And you also have tests. That is all that you have in this semester. You have 40% participation, 60% tests. Why do I call it participation? Because you're allowed to use your notebook on every quiz you're given. So if you've been participating, if you've been doing your work, then it's basically just participation. The tests, on the other hand, you are not allowed to use your notebook. However, you will be allowed to use a periodic table on every test. So, going back to practice, the most important thing in chemistry is try to get an answer for every problem, even if you are sure it is wrong. So, after you've listened to the lecture via video and reviewed the information in your textbook, try the assigned problems. Now, you will be given the answers ahead of time. If you are tempted to look at the answers before you try the problems, put the answer key on the other side of the room. Or, maybe even better yet, in the next room, if you're very bad of temptation, then write down an answer and check your answer. Now, sometimes this requires pushing through frustration and even despair. Because chemistry can be very difficult. Chemistry can require you to need to think through things. This is normal. It's okay to just guess at the equation, write down any numbers you know, and get a result. This process here allows me to figure out where your mistakes are, rather than you just giving up and not pushing through the frustration and despair. This allows me to know where your mistakes are and help you out. Now, after you have your answer, check it. If your answer equals the correct answer, great. Now, if your answer does not equal the correct answer, figure out where you went wrong And if you can't figure out where you went wrong, ask me. because that's my job. Now, I don't know why this works, but students have told me that it always does. I think if it has something to do with remembering mistakes more than remembering what you got right. It can be time consuming, and speaking of time consuming, you are expected to spend 30 minutes per day, 5 days a week on this class. So if you do the math, in an average week, you should spend 2.5 hours doing chemistry. Now, once you've done all of these problems, you'll already found all the pitfalls you make, and you'll identify your weak spots with the math. Sometimes you'll understand the chemistry perfectly, but you make small mistakes. Thankfully, I give partial credit, so you'll only lose a few points. Now, let's say you don't know a word. Don't know a word. Where can you go for this information? We have an index to your chemistry textbook. But even more importantly, you have the internet. And the best place to look it up? Wikipedia. Now, Wikipedia is not an expert source. So when we talk later on about expert sources, you cannot use Wikipedia as a source. However, it is a good place for definitions. Now, let me re-emphasize. You have to do the problems to get a good grade in chemistry. It may be tempted to think you can just memorize the concepts and you'll be okay, but this is not the road to good grades. If you run out of problems to do, I'll happily give you more. I do not provide sample tests, theoretically. However, you are in many ways provided a sample test because in the back of your book, there are 1 test per unit. And you can check it out. So day 1 would be chapter 1, day 2 would be chapter 2, day 3 would be chapter 3. Next thing, don't blame me. If you don't do your homework. My job is to present the concepts and teach you how to do the problems. Notice I teach you how to do the problems via these videos, and I will review the concepts with you in class when you have trouble. However, you need to practice. You have to do your job to get good grades. Many chemistry problems are tricky, and you have to get used to dealing with the common pitfalls. Doing problems is the best way to assure you catch these problems early. Now, this is where, notice how many times I have repeated the you need to practice. You need to practice. You need to practice. Notice, how many minutes a day should you be spending? 30 minutes. What does that mean? You should spend 10 minutes on the new video. Whatever the new video of the day is. You should spend 10 minutes doing problems from the book. And you should spend 10 minutes reviewing old problems or old videos. Understand that this is how much time you're going to have to spend in this class. This is not 4 days a week. This is not 3 days a week. If you have time, if you have days off because you're working. You do not have days off. It is every day 30 minutes. Period. Now, if you want to take those days off, well, you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So if you are a Tuesday worker and you want to take Tuesday off, that's fine. Then you'd have to work Monday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and either Saturday or Sunday. Notice, that is 5 days a week. That is what you have to do to pass this class. I am not giving participation points the way that I've done in previous years. I'm going to repeat that again. You are going to get 40% of your grade from quizzes and labs, and 60% from tests. The good news is, the quizzes, you are allowed to use any notes you have in your notebook.